I am continuing my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a bit as I move along. So now we're going to read Esther. According to scholars, Esther is during the time of Xerxes. Xerxes is the son of Darius. The temple was rebuilt during the reign of Darius. It was completed in the 6th year of Darius. It was completed in the 6th year of Darius, which would have been 516 BC. Xerxes began his reign in 485. So about 30 years later is when Xerxes begins his reign. Chapter 1. Ahasuerus and Persia of Media makes royal feasts. Vashti disobeys the king and is deposed as queen. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia over 127 provinces, that in those days when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes of the provinces being before him, when he shewed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days. And when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace, where were white, green, and blue hangings fastened with cords of fine linen and purple to silver rings and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver upon a pavement of red and blue and white and black marble. And they gave them drink in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and royal wine in abundance according to the state of the king. And the drinking was according to the law. None did compel, for so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house, that they should do according to every man's pleasure. Also Vashti the queen made a feast for the women in the royal house, which belonged to the king Ahasuerus. Feasting and reveling. This is in the 3rd year of Ahasuerus. Now this is during the reign of Xerxes. That would be in 482. We have this 104 score. That's 180 days. Now this isn't 180 days of drinking and reveling. This is 180 days of him taking all of his highest officers kind of on a tour of the area. He's showing off his wealth. And I don't think all the princes were there at once. You had 180 days because this prince would come in and he'd take this prince on a personal tour of the city and the palace and all the surrounding grounds. He'd bring in another prince would come in and he'd take them on a nice tour. And until he brought in the princes of every province, 127 provinces. Now it says from India to Ethiopia. So that's nowhere, of course, India, that would be probably to the Indus Valley River. The Indus River all the way down to south of Egypt, because Ethiopia is just south of Egypt. So that's the area, 127 provinces. All the princes are there. All the commanders of the army are there, the power of the kingdom, as it calls them. 180 days where he is showing off the majesty and glory and riches of his kingdom. Then they have their feast, 7-day feast, in the court garden, in the garden court. Very splendid. You got the marble, you got the gold and silver. Everybody has their own unique cup. We probably have about 200 people here, and everyone has a unique cup. This guy is just lavishly displaying his power and wealth. That's all he's doing here. And they're all drinking, they're all having fun. When it says beds, this is what we would call like a day bed, or possibly a couch, where you would lounge on them in the garden. This isn't your bed chambers, this isn't like a 4-poster bed. But they were all made of gold, probably cushioned, and the servers would bring in the wine and everything. But I find this one very interesting, that according to the law, according to the decree of Ahasuerus there, nobody had to drink more than they wanted. If somebody wanted to abstain completely, they had the right. See, in most ancient civilizations, it was at a feast, you would have your cup, and as soon as your cup was emptied, a servant would step forward and refill it. You may not even notice them refilling it. They would just be there to refill it. And you usually have like one servant for every 5 guests. And they would just keep refilling the 5 cups. And once your cup was refilled, it was considered a great insult not to drink it. But in this case, the king has commanded nobody had to drink more than they wanted to. So the way I see this is the servants wouldn't just come up and automatically refill your cup. They would come up and ask you do you want more? And if you said yes, they would refill it. And if you said no, they would step back and say okay. And also note that everybody in the courtyard, that's the men. The women are all having a separate feast in the house. Verse 10. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to shew the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him. We have 7 days of drinking and reveling. These guys are probably all fairly well drunk. And they want to oogle and ogle at Queen Vashti. I have no blame for her not coming. I think she was fully justified in refusing to go and display herself like that. Especially when in some traditions she was being commanded to come in wearing nothing but the crown. Definitely would not have blamed her for refusing that one. But this is making the king very angry, so. Verse 13. Then the king said to the wise men which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment. And the next unto him was Karshina, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsina, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which sat the first in the kingdom. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to the law? Because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains. And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes, when it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes, which have heard of the deed of the queen, thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she. And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small. And the saying pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, into every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of every people. Now this seems a little odd to us. Now I know people in the modern day will jump on this and say, oh, look at this, the men just want to oppress the women. We have this strong, independent woman standing up for herself, and the men are all getting mad, and they gotta oppress all the women. But that's not really what's happening, in my opinion. I think the men see an honest concern of the collapse of the family structure. Now, of course, they are a bit drunk, and in anger, they are lashing out in anger more than anything else. I doubt that it would have been as bad as this Memucan guy is claiming it would be. But it is true that if the queen is allowed to get away with this, then the wives of the other nobles and other men, all the way down to the peasants, will start thinking, hey, if the queen can do it, why can't I? And the fear is a destabilizing of the family. If there is not unity in the family, society collapses around it. The family is the bedrock of any society. And the men are concerned. I think they are truly concerned, and at least partly justified in their concern, that if this is allowed, then the family unit will destabilize, and thus civilization will collapse. At least their civilization would collapse, their society would collapse around it. That's what they're trying to protect against. This isn't, we got to put women in their place. No, it's, we got to stabilize the family. We got to make sure that we preserve that bedrock of society. I'm going to leave that one here, and we'll pick it up in chapter 2, so see you there.